My laptop's dying, my phone is dying, I'm dying. Everything's dying. Does anybody else's gallbladder just stop working some days? Because mine does, and it's horrible. I put on makeup, so I'm gonna film the goddamn video. Hey, howdy! Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a tag, because I love a good tag. This is the mid-year book freakout tag. I will be answering some questions about all of the books that I've read so far this year. So I have read 42 books so far this year. My goal was 51. It was 50 last year, and I just kind of barely made it to that goal, but this year, because of quarantine, I have just had an insane amount of time to read, and so I set my goal as 51, but I'm already at 42, so I will definitely be surpassing that goal probably this month or next month. On to the questions. Question number 1. The best book you've read so far in 2020. The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I read this in March, I believe. It's one of my really good friend's favorite books, so I should have known how much I was gonna love it, and I did absolutely adore it. All I want now is to read books like The Secret History, so if you have any, comment them below. This book is so good. Loved everything about it. I love the characters, I love the story, I love the writing style, I love the setting. I couldn't tell you a thing I didn't like about The Secret History. The best sequel that I've read so far in 2020. Vengeful by V.E. Schwab. I read Vicious and Vengeful both in January, and I absolutely adored them, which is no surprise. I love V.E. Schwab. I've read the Shades of Magic series. I think she's a great author, and so I kind of knew I was gonna like these ones going into it, but they were both fantastic. I liked the second one a little less than the first one. I've only read 2 sequels this year. This one was definitely my favorite, but I did want to mention the other one, The Night Country by Melissa Albert. It's the sequel to The Hazelwood, and I did really enjoy this one as well. I know The Hazelwood is kind of like, some people love it, some people hate it. I'm on the side of people that really enjoyed it, and this just, I feel like, wrapped up stuff very nicely. A new release I haven't read yet, but I really want to read, is Burn by Patrick Ness. It's about dragons. I love Patrick Ness as an author. I have read the whole Chaos Walking series. You can see them, they're right back there. I read that whole series. I read A Monster Calls when I was a kid, so I really have wanted to read this new release. From what I've heard, it's exceptional, and it's a really unique story idea. Like, one of my biggest things when I pick books is original plots. I think it's a hard thing to do these days because there is so much content out there, but I love when there's an idea that I just have not heard of before, and Burn definitely seems like it has a very unique premise, so I definitely want to get to that one. Question number 4, my most anticipated release for the second half of the year. The one that I've been looking forward to for the longest is for sure The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which is V.E. Schwab's new book. I just talked about her other books. I just talked about how much I love her, so I don't think I need to talk more about how much I love her. It, once again, is another story that sounds super unique. I just am so excited to see what she comes up with next. I swear, she can do no wrong in my mind. Like, she could write the worst book ever and I'd still probably be like, oh my god, this is so good. That's how I feel about her. That's not a lie. Another book that I'm really looking forward to this year is Transcendent Kingdom by Gyasi. I hope I'm saying that correctly. If I'm not, I'm very sorry. Her new book that's coming out talks a lot about the opioid crisis and drug addiction and depression, which are all themes that I like to read in my books because they parallel very much so with my life. I want to get to it this year as soon as it comes out. Next question. My biggest disappointment. I do not have either of these books to show you because they were disappointing. Oh, the first book that really disappointed me this year was The Turn of the Screw by Henry James. A classic ghost story is what it's supposed to be. It was not scary at all. And like, some people can say, oh well, it's old. They didn't want to make it too scary because it wasn't appropriate for the time. No, I've read good classic ghost stories. Henry James just fucking failed. It's a short book, like so short, and I fell asleep 6 times at least reading it because that's how dull it is. I thought I was really gonna like it and it just really was not into it. Biggest surprise, I'm gonna have a good surprise and a bad surprise. We'll do the good surprise first. I really loved Yellowbird by Sierra Crane Murdoch. It was such a fabulous book, and it's not that it was surprising in that I thought it was gonna be bad. It was just surprising in like I kind of found it on the fly while I was looking through some website or some true crime website one day that was like new true crime books out in 2020, and so I was just kind of glancing through and I was like, oh, that looks interesting, and then I found out that it took place near where I live, so I was like, oh, I'll read that, and I didn't really know a lot about it going into it, and then when I read it I was just blown away. I've like not seen anything about it anywhere, and I just feel like it's not getting enough hype, it's not getting attention that it deserves. And then my bad surprise, I hated this book, is Imagine Wanting Only This by Kristen Radtke. I don't know, I don't care, because she's not a good person. This is a graphic novel. I usually love graphic novels. It's hard to find a graphic novel that I don't at least appreciate the art in. But first of all, the art in this book, I'm not gonna critique it because everybody has their own art style, everybody likes their own things, but doesn't it look like it's a WikiHow article? It looks like it's a giant WikiHow article. Like, the one word I can use to describe this book is pretentious. It's a pretentious white woman who thinks that she's finding deep meaning in things that do not have any deep meaning. She just has no respect for other people or other cultures. The whole thing made me feel icky. Icky. My favorite new author, they're not new to anybody else, but they're new to me. I read my first H.G. Wells book, The Invisible Man, this year, and I absolutely adored it. I now want to read everything H.G. Wells has ever written. Okay, so question number 8 is your newest fictional crush. I refuse to answer that question because I don't think about it. Like, in all the books I've read, I'm like, oh, who out of all these characters am I most attracted to? I don't think about that. If I had to pick, though, it would probably be Francis from A Secret History, who's gay anyway. So question number 9 is my newest favorite character, and that would definitely have to be Brittany Devine from Things in Jars by Jess Kidd. She is such a badass, such an awesome character. She's a female detective in London in like the 1800s. She's a fan of freak show participants. She sees ghosts. She smokes questionable substances. Right up my alley. Very headstrong, very smart. Loved everything about her. A book that made me cry. I've got 2 for this one. A big crier this year. I'm a big crier every year, let's be honest. I cried at Hold Still by Nina LaCour, and I also cried at Grief is the Thing with Feathers by Max Porter. These 2 books broke me. Question 11 is a book that made you happy, and I have 2 books for this. I have The Marriage Plot by Jeffrey Eugenides and Face It by Debbie Harry. This book made me really happy because it's by my favorite author. It was the last book of his that I hadn't read yet, and it was just felt so good to be reading one of his books again, and just felt so good to be able to read his characters again. So that was definitely a happy read for me. And then on Face It by Debbie Harry I really liked because there's so many cool pictures of people in the 1970s and New York in the 1970s and Debbie Harry and Blondie, and it was just a really interesting, fun read all around. The prettiest book you've bought this year? Night and Day by Virginia Woolf. I got this amazing edition back home in Montana at one of my favorite bookstores, this House of Books, from something called Restless Classics. Yeah. Prettiest book I bought. And then the last question is books that you still need to get to this year, and I have a lot of books that I still need to get to this year. I made a list at the beginning of the year of books that I wanted to make sure that I read in 2020, and I think I still have 6 or 7 books left on that list. Some that I am particularly wanting to get to sooner rather than later are Truman Capote's In Cold Blood This is considered to be like the OG true crime book, and I've never read it, which is shocking, honestly. So I really want to get to that one this year. I also really want to get to Beloved by Toni Morrison. I have been meaning to read Toni Morrison's books since I was probably 14, since I first heard about her. So I really want to start, if not only reading Beloved this year, but hopefully some more of her books as well. And then I also really want to get to East of Eden by John Steinbeck this year. It's a big boy. She thick, but I really like John Steinbeck, and I have had this book on my shelf for a very long time, and I just need to get to it, and so I'm going to do it this year. There's the mid-year book freakout tag. Are you freaked out? I'm not. I'm just still in pain from my gallbladder. I posted in my last video, I listed some resources for Black Lives Matter. I will link those resources again down below, so make sure you check those out. This channel and myself always have and always will support people of color and Black people in their constant fight to defeat racism in this country specifically. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you didn't, you can tell it to my gallbladder, because that's the reason that this one is bad. Bye!